rapidly growing industry and one that many developing countries have turned to in order to achieve economic development. Nepal is no exception, and since the early 2000s, the tourism industry has grown greatly within the country.
Blessed with the natural beauty of the Himalayas and the tallest mountain on earth, Nepal attracts outdoor enthusiasts from around the world. These many tourists bring an influx in capital, provide jobs, and boost the total economic inputs of the country overall.
However, tourism introduces more problems than it solves, being environmentally and economically unsustainable. In order to ensure a sustainable tourism industry, major Nepalese policy changes must happen.
As you can see from the graphs on the screen, tourism in Nepal has consistently grown since 1986, and in the same period, GDP per capita has also increased. This really shows the impact that tourism has had on the country in recent years. Not only this, but the tourism sector is only growing, as Nepal saw a 25% increase in visitors from 2017 to 2018.
In fact, more than 1.1 million tourists visited the country in 2018, and the industry provided more than 1 million jobs, mostly in the service sector. One ethnic group which seems to have benefited from tourism is the Sherpas, as these climbing guys make a lot of money from the industry. Not only this, the Sherpas being better educated by this influx in tourism. The Nepalese government has even stated that the country plans to accommodate more than 2 million tourists by 2020, 4 times the number from 2014. As you can see in this graph, the growth in Nepal's tourism sector can be only described as exponential, and this would doubtlessly bring a lot of money into the country as well as providing many more job opportunities.
So looking just at this evidence, it's easy to assume that Nepal and its people only stand to benefit from tourism and the money it brings into the economy. However, we must take a deeper look in order to reveal the consequences of tourism. Yes, tourism provides money and jobs, but it is also destroying the natural environment, destroying the local culture, and has proven to be an economically unsustainable industry.
The first and probably the most apparent consequence of tourism is its negative impacts on the environment. Since the rise of tourism, Sherpas working on Everest have noticed decreases in plant and animal life, accelerated glacial melting, and warmer temperatures, all signs of a degraded environment. The graph above displays the loss of biodiversity and flora and fauna in Nepal, largely due to the development and tourism. This graph also shows environmental degradation through warm temperatures. The increasingly warm temperatures are melting glaciers, reducing animal habitats, and increasing the chances for natural disasters such as floods and mudslides.
Additionally, trail degradation, waste pollution, and a loss of biodiversity have all been apparent in Nepal's biggest tourism attraction. Not only this, Nepal is currently facing huge issues regarding water, sound, and light pollution. Furthermore, as the economy continues to develop at this unsustainable rate, CO2 emissions are increasing drastically. This has led to Nepal scoring lower than any other country on the Environmental Performance Index, which poses huge risks for both tourists and citizens.
So why does environmental degradation threaten the economy? Take a look at this quote by the UN Environmental Program. Destroying the environment of which the success of the industry is based on is therefore like killing the goose that lays the golden egg.
This quote asserts that although Nepal is benefiting from tourism in the short term, this success will not be sustainable if the environment is destroyed by it. Without a pristine environment to attract tourists, the Nepal tourism sector will only suffer, and the economy will suffer alongside it.
In addition to the many environmental impacts caused by tourism, tourism has also proven to be an economically unsustainable industry. One of the biggest issues that Nepal is currently facing is an imbalance in tourism throughout the country. The north of Nepal, containing the Himalayas, accounts for more than 70% of tourist visits. This creates a massive wealth gap between the people of the agriculturally based south and the tourism-based north. Additionally, tourism does not offer reliable incomes for those involved in the industry. This graph illustrates the distinct tourist seasons in Nepal, and you can see huge increases in tourism during the spring and autumn and huge decreases during the summer and winter. Because of this, there are parts of the year when all service workers are employed and parts of the year when jobs are scarce. Consequently, families relying too heavily on tourism as a source of income may suffer during the off-season.
Also, while Nepalese tend to maximize the number of tourist arrivals, the economic gain is actually under expectation. As you can see in this graph, the average daily spending per tourist is only 52 USD in the season 2016-2017, compared to 182 USD in Thailand. And this is mainly caused by Nepal's poor infrastructure maintenance and inadequate service quality. and as a result, it encourages Nepal to accommodate more tourists, which further deters the problem.
Finally, tourism results in a loss of culture, especially in the Sherpa community. Tourists bring many foreign cultures to the country of Nepal, and with them, inevitably, their cultures are diffused. With increases in wealth and advancements in technology, the diffusion of popular culture has been especially prevalent within the Sherpa community. Understandably, Sherpas have diverged from their traditional folk culture and have fallen susceptible to Western culture. This loss in folk culture not only discourages potential culture tourists from visiting the country, but has great impacts on the Sherpas themselves. Their culture is fundamentally changed, and due to the unrestricted tourism, the Sherpas' lives are based on serving the Westerners and the outside world.
Further contributing to the problem, the Nepalese government has not made any valid attempts to offset any of these issues and is actually encouraging this unsustainable tourism. Nepal's Tourism and Environmental Act contains insignificant fines and punishments, allowing for corners to be cut in the name of money.
These weak regulations have put tourist safety at risk, as overcrowding on popular trekking and mountaineering routes has proven to be extremely dangerous. Like many other trekking routes in Nepal, Mount Everest has seen huge increases in visitors, posing serious dangers to both climbers and Sherpas. The number of casualties on Mount Everest, shown above, goes hand in hand with the amount of overcrowding, and the deaths do not seem to be slowing down. This has caused an uproar within the climbing community, as even though conditions continue to worsen, Nepal will still not prioritize climber safety.
One factor which makes climbing even more dangerous is the loss of snow cover. The graph on the screen clearly illustrates the decline in snow cover and glacial cover since the 1980s, making Everest more dangerous for climbers. Although there is clear evidence of the overcrowding on Everest is affecting the environment and the tourist safety, nothing is being done about it.
It's pretty clear to see that if the government of Nepal does not take any actions, the future stability of Nepal's tourism sector is at risk. Currently, the economy, environment, and culture are threatened, and drastic changes need to be done. One country we can turn to as an example is for sustainable tourism growth is Bhutan. Bhutan, to ensure sustainable tourism sector, has implemented a high-value, low-impact policy, and this policy creates an image of exclusivity, drawing more tourists to the country.
This policy has introduced daily tariffs for all international tourists, up to $250 USD each day, allowing for sustainable tourism. This tariff pays for a government-appointed tour, which includes accommodation, food, travel, and tour guide, offsetting environmental, cultural, and economic impacts. Tourists must also pay a sustainable development fee, which the country uses to promote social welfare.
So, if implemented in Nepal, this policy will doubtlessly solve the sustainability issues currently plaguing the country. However, this policy cannot be implemented without a few costs. Obviously, this policy will result in fewer jobs supported by the tourism industry and a reduced economic impact of tourism overall. Yes, these are huge impacts, but they will end up benefiting the country in the long run, as this policy promotes more traditional and less tourism-dependent lives, preserves the rich culture of the country, and will help ensure economic and environmental sustainability.
Not only this, for the people in the tourism sector, their jobs will be much more reliable and sustainable overall. Finally, the tariffs and fees would promote sustainable development and the protection of the natural environment, upkeeping Nepal's draw as a major tourist destination. Because of all these factors, this policy is crucial in ensuring a long-term well-being of the country and its people.
So in addition to this policy, putting limits on the number of tourists, imposing extremely high tourist fines, and improving on tourist infrastructure have all been proposed in order to solve Nepal's tourism problems. Although these solutions may solve isolated problems regarding tourism in Nepal, they fail to address the larger problem of tourism being environmentally, economically, and culturally unsustainable.
In conclusion, tourism is a growing part of Nepal's economy and supports the country by providing many job opportunities. On the other hand, the blossom tourism has also posed many problems, making the industry unsustainable. Therefore, in order to ensure a sustainable environment and economic growth in the tourism sector, the government has to take actions and implement high-value, low-impact policies. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, take a breath. Big breath. All right. So, let's start with Diya. Okay, so having finished your project, what, if anything, would you consider to be a gap in your research? And if addressed, would make you feel more confident about your conclusion?
I think a gap that we did have was we only focused on the Sherpa community as the locals and the people in Nepal. However, if we also focused on other areas and maybe other like cities in Nepal and how their people are affected by this overcrowding and over tourism, then I think that would build a bit more of a stronger argument for us.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Tony, what was the strongest counter argument to the solution your team identified?
Okay, so strongest counter argument. So I think the strongest counter argument was that if so can I restart this one?
Yeah, sure.
So one of my solutions in the research was that we have to restrict the number of tourist arrivals so that the overuse of the environment can be solved this problem. But Diya has proposed like a problem that if we actually restricted the number of tourist arrivals, then the local communities will also be impacted as there will be a short-term economic drop, so that the local communities might not be happy about that. So I think that's the strongest counter argument.
Okay, good. All right, thanks, Tony. All right, and last but not least, Tiara. How did the group decide to include Tony's perspective or lens into the overall presentation?
So Tony primarily looked at the economic impacts of tourism on the country, and it was actually very, very important to include his lens because the economics of tourism is the main reason why it's happening in the country. So we decided to have, I guess, the impacts of the environment the impacts on the economy and the economics of it be one of our big three things that we focused on. I was focusing on, I guess, the politics and the environment, and Diya looked at the impacts on local culture. But I think the big thing that tied it all together was the economy, because that's sort of the whole driver of the industry. So I guess we sort of interlaced it throughout our entire presentation.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.